This tutorial will cover the basics of starting a sequence within Avid Media Composer. As you can see from my Avid Media Composer project currently, it is color-coded, meaning I've gone through the footage, I've looked to see what the footage consists of, and now I can start to think how I want to piece together the scene. These top 4 here that are yellow are all the master shots. So if I scrub through it, you can see how the scene should be playing out, and then you have your additional coverage to work with. Now, as I go through shots, if there's ones that I really like, or there's a certain moment I really like to work with, I can use the Add Marker button, and that will allow me to make a comment about a certain moment that I like within the shot coverage. And it will allow me to easily be able to see it once I add it as well. So say I like this spot right here, really like this moment, I'm going to click my Add Marker button, I'm going to type like moment, build to it. Maybe this is where I want to start my sequence and then build around it. As an editor, you do not need to start at the beginning of a sequence. You can start wherever you'd like. So maybe potentially there's a moment within here that you want to build the scene around. You can absolutely do that as well. You can also adjust the color of your marker. So maybe you color code them for specific characters or specific moments. You can associate them to a particular track. You can hit OK. And as you can see, then it is written there in your clip window. You can easily click on it. You can disable them. You can also change it, add more to it. You also have the option then to click on it and delete it as well. But let's say for building this sequence, we want to start at the beginning and kind of build up from there. So let's find an opening spot of this master, because that will give us a good kind of lay of the land. I'm going to mark an endpoint of where I think this scene should start. Then I'm going to play it through and see how it plays out. Figure out potentially where I might want to put my next potential edit point. Walter Murch has always talked about cutting like butter. A great way to do so is to cut on a match. So anytime there's any sort of character movement, camera movement, if you're able to cut and match it, that'll help your cuts feel like they flow a little bit better. So I've set my out point here. I then want to bring this into my timeline. So you can hit either B or V on your keyboard, and that will drop it on into the timeline. Utilizing B or V as a keyboard shortcut will become important when you start to put multiple clips within your sequence. Then your overwrite and your splice in will become very helpful to either replace clips or make room for new clips you want to bring in. Now you'll see it's brought in a video track and 2 audio tracks. Remember, the green side associates to your clip window up here. Your blue side associates to what's in your sequence. Right now you'll see down here the sequence that I just dropped in became an untitled sequence. It just created it for me into my sync bin, which all of you should know that is incorrect. Any sequence you're creating, a rough cut you're creating, that should always be going into your current cut bin. So I'm just going to drag and drop it over. And then most importantly as well, you always want to be labeling your sequences too. So this is scene 16 underscore V01, because this is the first version of the sequence that I'm working with. Now, anytime you come in and start a new day, you want to duplicate this sequence and put the old one into your previous cut bin. There's a tutorial covering those steps or additional guidance on duplicating a sequence and moving it into your previous cut bin. As you can see, once I relabel the sequence, then it changes the name down at the bottom of your timeline here, so you can see that. I'll easily jump to the beginning of my sequence by hitting home on the keyboard, and then I'll just play this through, kind of get a feel for it, see how it's playing back. As you go through it here, if you want to ever add comments down to your timeline window here, you can do so by going to the Add Marker button underneath the Source Monitor window. So if there's a point in the sequence here that you're like, okay, I want to make a note to maybe add something later, or I know I want to add a cut later to it, or I know I need something here, you can add a marker, click to add it, type in your comment here. Maybe I want to throw the cut over to Percy at this moment. I can then associate a color to it as well, so then it can match his clip colors. You can also associate it to tracks as well. And when you're all set with it, you can hit OK. And you'll see it appears here in your Source Monitor window timeline and also in your timeline sequence down here. If you want to delete them, you can just go ahead and click on them and then hit delete. Now, something I want to point out here is going to be your source monitor button. This nondescript button right here associates, as it's blue, to your source monitor window up here. So anytime it is turned off, as you can see, as you scrub through, you cannot see your visual video element because the source monitor is turned off. So when it's clicked on, you're able to see your tracks and anything below it. That ends our tutorial on starting a sequence. To learn more about editing a sequence, check out the Editing a Sequence tutorial.